seems to be an awful lot of noise on my microphone again. I think that's fixed it. I really need to sort out my microphone. How am I feeling? Oh, drained. Absolutely knackered. So this might be a relatively short stream today, but we'll see what happens. I will say I am coughing a lot at the moment, so I've got my trusty volume control here so I can not deafen you. Well, I've got two things to do on this stream. The first one is to open some mail. David Phantom is here. Good. Recognise this, David? Let's switch over to my desk view. There we go. Oh, no, you don't. It's not from you then. It's from David in New York. Carrot House. Right. I'm pretty certain I know what's in this box. Oh. All the way from upstate New York. Thanks to David. Good packaging. Oh, I love these things. Sorry, eardrums, they've gone. This, I hope, is a graphics card that will help me to do speech recognition on my NAS. You're certainly good at packaging, David. And you certainly love your tape. I rather suspect this was an anti-static bag from a motherboard. Yes, am I right? More tape. $100 for the tape. That was just in the outside box. Here we go, I'm almost in. And here we have the, get it into focus, come on camera, wake up. The Quadro, was it P620, was it, I think? Which hopefully should allow me to do some CUDA work on the on my NAS machine. Yes, Quadro P620. Unfortunately, I don't have any mini DP connectors or adapters or anything, but that doesn't really matter because the NAS is a headless machine anyway. So it's not going to have anything plugged into it. And all I need it for is its CUDA cores, so I can run Whisper on my NAS to free up the CPU, and also maybe a bit of graphics and video processing as well for Nextcloud, which also likes to use a GPU if it can. So yes, hopefully it should improve that no end, because at the moment the NAS is just a what is it? It's a 3rd generation i5. It is the i5 3470 in there at the moment. So it does the job, but it's a bit sluggish. I don't see a bracket here, but that doesn't really bother me in the slightest. As I say, it's headless, so it's not going to be having any cables plugged into it, so it's not going to be having any strain on it whatsoever. It won't be the only card that I've got around with no bracket, so it's not a problem whatsoever. Arch, of course. By the way, I use Arch. guys, hello, I use Arch. No, don't worry about it in the slightest. It's not the bracket that I want it for. It's CUDA cores. The bracket is irrelevant, really. Yeah, it's nice to hold it in with, but only needed if you're going to plug anything into it, and I'm not planning on plugging anything into it, so it'll quite happily sit there, clamped into the motherboard by its PCIe clip thing. So Slackware. I used to run Slackware back when it was one of the only Linuxes available, really. Slackware 1.2. Yes, those were the days. On a 386 or a 486? 486, I think I ran it on, didn't I? Yeah. Perfect. Latest CUDA drivers, exactly what it'll be using. So I can't put that into my NAS at the moment. Brighten this up a bit. There's the thumbnail hiding. I can't put it directly into my NAS on stream because all of my internet traffic goes via the NAS, because it's also my router, it's my server, it's everything all in one machine. So if I turn that off, I turn myself off, and that's not going to happen. So so after stream, I shall tear that down and fit it and have a play. So thank you very much, David Phantom. I'm also trying, if I can find the right window on here. It's not loaded at the moment. Let's load Blender on my other computer and open up this scene here. And if I switch over to my other computer, there we go. Here's Blender, and what I'm trying to do is something a bit like Shelby does, just virtually. So I have added a little pin. You're roughly there, I think, aren't you, give or take? There's Long Island there. You're just above that way up a bit, aren't you? Upstate New York. Go up this way somewhere, aren't you? So yes, I'm going to be putting little pins all over this globe whenever I get a mail call. So send me stuff and I'll put you on the globe. Right, that's the first thing over with anyway. Let's put that over on one side. Back in its bag. Let's have a quick catch up here. What's going on in chat? Next to Nova Scotia, I have no clue where that is. My knowledge of North American geography is there's Texas, there's California, and that's about it. um, on American scales, Cob H, yes, your walking distance pretty much. 420 terabyte drives have you got? Good lord. I've got 3 4 terabyte drives. Wow. How do you fit 20 terabytes into one drive? I've recently upgraded my main workstation to a one massive terabyte NVMe, and it flies along now. But yeah, I've got plenty of 2 terabyte spinning rust in the drawer that's not doing anything. But yeah, 4 terabyte drives is the biggest I can stretch to here. NAS drives, are they 54s or something, are they? Or do they stretch up as far as 10s? Yeah, I don't really have raw footage, not from my camera. It's all compressed MP4, no matter what, on mine, unfortunately. It would be nice to have something that would do raw, but alas not. Right, I'm getting out my 5150 because the other thing that I want to be doing today is not run it on a 128 gigabyte flash disk. Probably, as I'm moving this around, I've just nudged my receiver. That should cure that. The slightest nudge on there and it just all goes completely up its own arse. Put it bluntly. Is it doing it again? I can see lots. Oh, that just went red then. I've wiggled everything. Is it gone now? It looks like it's gone, looking at the VU meter. Right, as I was saying before my microphone so rudely interrupted me, currently the boot drive on my 5150 is a 128 gigabyte flash disk, of which I'm using 500 megabytes. I have here a 500 megabyte, roughly, flash drive that I would like to use on it instead. But unfortunately, it's not just a case of just plugging this in and using it, because the disk dimensions that it emulates are hard coded into the BIOS on this, and they're currently hard coded for 504 megabytes, and this is 488 it works out as. So this won't work on that BIOS. So I need to reprogram the BIOS on this to take a smaller disk. I've tried it once before a couple of weeks ago and failed miserably, but that was due to my own complete and utter incompetence. So I'm just going to do it again and get it right this time. So my first thing to do will be to take out the adapter card. Quite possibly they are. It normally has a metal bracket thing around it that rotates round and covers it up the end and stuff like that. I ripped that off because they're useless. I picked that one up off eBay for like £1.50 or something silly. So yeah, they're often given away free at trade shows and things like that. Oh, the one I took out. This one is a SanDisk Cruiser Blade, 128 gigabyte rather. I have got a 64 gig one here, but I don't want to use that one either. Anything over 500 is just going to be overkill, so. Oh, come back, screw. You can't lose those screws. They're official IBM screws. I wish they'd used Phillips head ones. I don't like flat blades. So you stole it off Western Digital then, did you? Oh, ow. Come on. Off you come. Okay, I'm in. There we go. There's my CH375B card with boot ROM installed. Is it popping again? This thing is so annoying. Whenever I just touch the cable, it goes. Right, yeah, this is the 375B USB ISA adapter. Got this one off AliExpress. They're about 16, 17 quid. Not much to say about it, really. Ooh, popcorn. Yeah. It doesn't normally come with a boot ROM, but it does come with a CD-ROM with a boot ROM image on it. Excuse me while I just cough again. But the boot ROM that it comes with is complete and utter garbage. It's so slow that it's unusable. Fortunately, there is an open source one which works absolutely beautifully. It's about 5 to 10 times the speed of the stock one. Of course, it's open source, so you can modify it. Has good support as well. When I first found it and tried using it, I had the MDA card monochrome in the 5150 and it would not work. So raised a ticket on GitHub. Within a couple of hours, he'd found a fix, pushed out a new version, and bam, working. And that just went really red on my VU meter then. Have I got a problem with this end of it as well? I think I might have. It might be the transmitter actually that's causing the problems. Ooh, that doesn't look good. I'm wondering actually if it's the transmitting end that's causing the problems rather than the receiving end. They're both rubbish. I'll sit one next to the other and see if that helps. It just means I won't be able to move very far. So yes, what I'm going to need to do is compile a new version of the open source BIOS, burn it onto a new EEPROM, and see if it'll work with this little old thing. Awfully dark at the moment, this, isn't it? No, wrong button. Where's the button I want? Working blind here. That's a bit better. Too bright. There we go. You can see it better now. Yeah. So see if we can then get this working with this with a new version of the BIOS. And if I switch back over to my other computer here, git remote -v, the BIOS is by hackfoo1. And that's the URL, hackfoo1/ch37x BIOS. It's all written 100% in assembly. And has a couple of defines at the top of it for the size of the disk. It sounds awesome. What's changed is the transmitting unit of my microphone is now 2 inches away from the receiving unit. There's also, right at the very end of this file, there is the address that the board runs on. It's possible to set up multiple ones, so it'll scan through for different addresses. So, but just for speed of booting, I've got it hard coded to the specific address I've got this one set to. It also has the option to run in a 16-bit mode, this double wide mode, which this board is not configured to use, but it allows for even faster transfers if your board supports it by using 16-bit transfers for the data, where the hardware then deals with breaking it into 2 8-bit chunks. But this board isn't set up for that, so it can't. So that's turned off. So yes, I need to change the hard drive parameters here to something that will fit on this disk, which I thought I had done with these settings, but it didn't work. So I'm going to reduce it slightly more to give me, let's have a think. Let's just have a look for some standard sizes, because it would be quite groovy to use a standard drive size if I could. I'm not sure if there is anything that's around the 400 meg area. If I can find a list of all the old drive types. But probably not. IBM drive types. Oh, good. Nice list of all the different drive types. Tells me the cylinders, heads, sectors and everything, but it doesn't actually tell me the capacity. Wonderful website, this one. There we go. Exactly what I want, just doesn't give you the actual capacity. Very, very clever. Let's find another one. Or maybe I'll just not bother and just make up my own numbers. I want to keep 16 and 63 for the heads and sectors because those are standard. But let's have a calculator. We have 1663, and what have I got? 960 at the moment, with 512 per track. Is 472 megabytes, which I thought would fit, but evidently doesn't. So I'm thinking I might drop this, take it right the way down to 900. That'd be 442 megabytes. That would, and it's bigger than any PCXT has ever had. But let's make that 900. That should hopefully be a working BIOS, but that's the easy part. Now I've got to get it onto an EEPROM, and for that I need to rebuild my 486. Nothing's ever simple around here. My 486 is also my EEPROM programming machine, and as you well know, I've been doing a lot of messing around with that recently. So I need to drag that out from its pit and get it working properly again. So bear with me a moment. I'm just going to turn the sound off because this might get noisy with moving the microphone around. Okay, it's back. And there we go. The main thing that I need to do is to replace the boot drive with its original one. It's a lovely bit of software. It's also within that BIOS repository, there is like a diskless boot system as well that's based around the same boot code, but instead of actually using a drive, it's just got an image that it's stored in Flash in the EEPROM that it boots from. So it's possible to have a really, really minimal DOS installation on there to boot straight in without needing a drive of any form. But of course you only get a couple of kilobytes. And this camera, this was a phone, but this thing here is decided it's having an off day today. It's decided it's going to run in 14 frames per second and be really quite laggy. It does that sometimes, so you'll have to bear with it being a bit Whoa. That is just terrible. I might go and reboot that phone actually, because it's horrible when it does that. Right, let's zoom out on there. Focus. There we go. I need to straighten this camera up as well. There we go. My trusty 486. So I need to take out this drive here, which has got the NetWare client on it. And one of these two might contain its original boot drive, but since I've never labelled any of them, I've no idea what's on them. For Halloween, you want to be dressing up as an apple, don't you? Then people can go bobbing for you. Right, let me try and find some cables here to plug into this thing. Another thing I'm going to have to do actually is find an EEPROM to program this onto. I haven't got many to choose from. I reserve judgment until I see a picture. I'm going to need some power as well. Right, have I found 50-50 chance the right boot drive here? Want that one and power up. Is it working? No, that's not working. That does not look to me like DOS. What it is, though, is surprising it's even getting this far. I don't think that's going to work. That looked a bit too Windowsy to me. Let's try this one. Should give me a nice boot menu. So slow posting this machine. Failure fixed to disk 0. That doesn't sound good. That is in. That's all connected. There is power. The lights are on. So maybe this one doesn't work. Okay, so if it's neither of those two, maybe I've put it somewhere else. Where's my pouch of SD cards? It's definitely a 2 GB one. That's a 256 meg one, so it's not that. That's a 2 GB one, that might be it. I've definitely got one 2 GB one somewhere that doesn't work. And that might be this one. Pentium on 133 gateway. Gateways were reasonable machines. I mean, there was nothing particularly special about them. It's detected the drive okay. Not doing much. Might just be that the settings are slightly wrong for this drive. I've got a number of different 2 gig cards and they all detect very slightly different sizes. It's 1977, that's the same. 38, 31, 16, 63. Yeah, that's all the same, so it's not that. So chances are this is not the drive. Oh, they're very stylish, yes, absolutely. But as actual computers, there's nothing particularly amazing about them. Here's another 2 gig. I'll try that one next. But that's not booting. And when I had my computer shop back in the 90s and 2000s, I did come across quite a large number of gateways for repairing and upgrading and things. So. Nope, that's NetBSD on there. That's not the drive either. Okay. So what have I done with the drive for this computer? It must be around somewhere. It's not this one, is it? I don't think so. So many cards, all unlabeled. It never is the drive I'm looking for. It probably is one that I've looked at, but just like a USB connector, it takes 3 attempts to plug in something that can go in 2 possible ways. What's on here? It's MS-DOS, but it's the right version. It's not the right, or is it? Is this the right one or not? Absolutely, yes. We got, this might be the one. There we go. That's the EEPROM programming software. Great, I found the right one finally. It was, for some reason, in my USB SD card reader. I don't know why it would have been on there, but it was. Right, I'm going to need as well my network working on this. And I don't know if it will because I've changed the network card in here because I wanted the network card that's in it for my Cyrix system for trying to get Banyan Vines working. And this card is identical card, but for some reason in the Cyrix it would just lock up the post. So hopefully it'll work better in this one. And I think I've got the same settings. It's looking hopeful. Possibly. Thinking. Has it actually found the card? It's found the card. But I don't know if it's communicating. Is my hub actually working at the moment? No, it's not. You know what would help? It would help if it was plugged in. Is it now going to do anything? I have activity. Oh, there we go. No, there is not enough. No, there's not enough memory available. Okay, that might be lying. Oh, hang on. Drop the microphone receiver transmitter as well. Actually, I'm going to tape it down. Right, so we're getting there. There is not enough memory available. There's plenty of memory, it's just well, not conventional. That would be useful, though it would be working overtime. Okay, now I need to get networking working again. The only view I have of this computer is the little tiny preview window of OBS at the moment. So I'm going to see if I can zoom in on that a bit on this computer. A bit better. I might be able to read it now. Okay. This was working last time I used this. Why is it now not working? What have I loaded that it's no longer likes? There's nothing in upper memory. Oh. Hold on. I had to take EMM386 out of the mix at one point for something, and I can't remember what. and I forgot to put it back in again. So it had no upper memory. That'll be why. Yay! Ugh. I hate this cold. Don't have a cold. Whatever you do, don't have a cold. Right, I now have access to my NAS. So I can come over to my other computer and copy my... One second. Thank goodness for the ability to mute. Oh. I don't blame you. Please, please stay away from it. It's not nice. Right, what was I saying? Yes, I'm going to copy on my other computer this compiled disk binary to my NAS. And then copy the file onto here. Oh, it's been loitering around for a whole week now and it's not nice. Actually, I'm just going to go and find something a sec. Hey. Not sponsored by them, although I wish they would. I'm going through them like nobody's business at the moment. Okay, what's happening here? Extended error 53. Something not right there. Something is very much not right there. FTP on here? You know, stuff it. I can't be bothered messing with this. I'm going to take the memory card out, plug it into my PC, and just copy the file across. It'd be faster than trying to get the network working. I haven't got the energy to focus on it today. And this is SDB1. That was a bit quicker, wasn't it? And back to, yeah. Actually, I didn't want to load network, did I? I no longer want to network. Would we be able to go over the XTIDE stuff? Which XTIDE stuff? There's my desktop bin. What I need to do now is checksum this file, because you have to have a valid checksum for the BIOS to be able to detect that it's there. Oh, that's what I'm doing now. That's this thing. That's this. The CH375. Not the XTIDE. I haven't got an XTIDE. This is the CH375 USB interface. I prefer this to the XTIDE because it's less troublesome and you can just use a flash disk rather than having to use a compact flash card or an adapter to SD card or other complicated things. And it gives you access to it from the back, so you can actually swap them around if you've got multiple ones the same size. Crossed wires, that's what it was. Yeah, what am I doing? I'm checksumming this. ROM CKsum is the program. Which just wants the disk.bin and gives it a checksum of 0029. Now I need to get this checksummed ROM onto an EEPROM, which raises another question. What did I do with my EEPROM programmer? I normally keep it under the desk here. And have I got it under here? I have. Buried under the back of the desk there. There she is. My lovely Super Pro. That's why this 486 is my EEPROM programming machine. I'll also need an EEPROM I'm tethered to the desk now by my microphone. So let's grab my box of memory. EPROMs. What size is this? That's a 64. Those are 64s. This one is a that's a 10, isn't it? That's too big. That's an 010. That's a 64. I know I've got another 256 around somewhere. Those are all flash chips. What have I done with this? I thought I kept it in here with all the others. On this, is it? No, these are 512s. They're no good. Well, they might work, but I'm not happy programming those at the moment. Not in my eraser. No. What have I done with it? I never find the things I want. They're normally organised. So this is my box of memory, but it's not in my box of memory. And because it's not in my box of memory, I've forgotten where it is. So what I may have to do is erase the existing one, which is a pain because that takes forever. Or attempt to use one of these 512 flash chips. Problem with these 512 flash chips is they're not supported by the programmer. But the programmer can be reprogrammed, and I've reprogrammed it, but it doesn't work with them reliably for some reason. Only I could find the one that I was going to use this with. I've got two 256 kilobit EPROM chips. Only two. Because most of what I use is flash chips, but unfortunately they're a slightly different pin out than you can use on here. You need an actual EPROM. No, nothing for it. I'm going to have to wipe the original. And I had to go and stick a really sticky label over it, didn't I? So I can't peel it off now. There we go, that's off. Okay, let's erase this then. Put that into my eraser and turn it on. It's glowing nice and dangerously now. Set a 15-minute timer. Let's not walk off with my microphone. Right, that's going to take a quarter of an hour. And in the meantime, I'll probably find the other one. It's got so many sort of little boxes of components around the place. It's not in that one. It's not that long since I was last using these, so it can't be far away. Oops. It's not in that tray of assorted bits. Far too much junk on my desk. Nope. Right. Well, I'm going to try one of these. Oh, hello. Let's wake my camera up again. There we go. I'm going to try one of these out. One of these CH375B chips. I've erased all these already, but they're not a chip which is natively supported by the programmer. Is it bad to be a computer hoarder, or is it expected to be a computer hoarder? Oh, hang on, wrong keyboard. Where have we gone? Come back. Ah, let's use the right keyboard for this, shall we? This Super Pro, I turned out the lights. The Super Pro has a algorithm generator, which lets you program your own methods of reprogramming. This microphone is still doing stupid things. Lets you reprogram the entire way that the system works. I have created, if I can remember where it is, SP EEPROM, yes, 27SF512, the algorithm for how to program these chips. But it doesn't always work reliably. It certainly has difficulty erasing them. But it might work for programming. Where are we? I want my disk.bin file. looks like this. Let's see if I can program this on here. I'll do a blank check first. It thinks it's blank, so let's program it. It thinks it's programmed. Let's verify it. That thinks it worked okay on this chip. So this might be a goer. It's worth a try, certainly. Shelby hasn't got space. He has things. He doesn't have space. He has data generals. He has Hydro Thunders. He doesn't have space. Can I get this chip to even get back into this socket? Right. We might be able to get this going on here, possibly, without needing the EEPROM. So let's get rid of this 486 temporarily. I mustn't turn too far or I rip my microphone off again. What I might do actually is pick that up there. How do I sound now? Might be a bit quieter, a bit more echoey. Right. Moment of truth. Why? With all this floor, I drop the memory stick. All this floor that it can go on, and it has to go underneath the desk. Why? I think there's a goblin that lives underneath the desk. Reaches out and grabs things. Okay. Installing the card. In the small flash disk. Video. Can't feed it through my PVM because it requires a board signal to wake up a channel on it. Straight in Extron. Need the keyboard. see it boots up. Attempts to boot. Sound a bit like that Florida man, of course, who tried fairly recently and fought and stopped to run to Europe. He built himself this sort of inflatable, well, not really a ball, more of a cylinder with big floats all around the outside of it, and his idea was to run in that across the surface of the water. He made it 100 yards before the Coast Guard came and picked him up. Seen it pick up the here. Not expecting it to boot, but I am expecting it to give me the messages. Nope, that's not worked. Okay. Not be the chip that is the fault. It might be the programming that is at the fault. But either way, that is not working. This in the right way, don't I? Yes. Is twice the capacity. 4. Now it is the that 1 bigger. Not bigger, it's a larger memory level. Do I need to hardwire that to ground? Ooh, oh. What I might need to do actually is install the code into the chip twice. So that no matter which half of the chip gets by the board, it's got the code. That might be my fault why this isn't working. Create a new file, but doubled up. Okay. A 2K file. 32K. So I need to expand this. My 32768. Okay. I've just taken the existing checksummed ROM image and rounded it out to fill half the disk. Oh, there's my alarm. Okay, Google, shut up. If the worst comes to the worst, I should now have an erased EEPROM up here. Google, give me your home address. Mine just said, I'm here. So I think we're safe. Right, what I've done is I've created a added ROM file, which I then want to double. No, I didn't want to do that. I wanted to do that. Okay. I now have 32K disk file and a 64K disk file. Can be quite argumentative sometimes, especially if there's something that she's got wrong. Actually, I find this new Bing bot thing with ChatGPT 4 is possibly the best thing to argue with. Trying to convince her that you're right and she's wrong. Okay, right. So now I want to unmount that. Go back in the 486. Right, the other side here. Save moving everything around again. Super Pro. And another blank. Screen, of course, aren't yet. This that I'm running here is i3. It's very much a minimalist desktop environment. It's not even really a desktop environment. It's a tiling window manager. Programmed. If I just, yeah, I'll just pop back to that. I can open another window at the press of a button on my keyboard. I can move focus around with keyboard presses. I can move windows around with keyboard presses. All sorts you can, without needing to reach over for the mouse at all. Because even when I was using Ubuntu as my main operating system, the Arch Wiki was where I got most of my information from figuring it. Okay, so I think I've programmed what might now be a working BIOS. My theory is. So let's just pop out this chip. In this chip. Now see if it works. Back in here. Boot up and see if it card. It's there checking memory. Nice to have slightly newer BIOS on here that actually shows the memory count on it. This is stock BIOS on here. If you want to play with Arch but don't want the complexity of Arch, I can recommend Manjaro. Halfway between the two. It's Arch but polished and aimed towards end users. Hopeful. Nope. Okay, that doesn't work. That means I'm going to EEPROM. Hopefully I have just raised. Turn off. Yeah. I ran Manjaro on my laptop. I then switched to Arch. The operating system that got me into Arch actually. I wanted to look at Arch on my Raspberry Pi, but there is no Arch for Arch. There is Manjaro for Arch. So started playing there and then moved over to it on my laptop. Then graduated to Arch. Okay, what am I doing here? I'm coming out of there. Then going into the main Super Pro 2. Binary full. In. Buying this, it's the AMD CH375B AM276 to blank check. Yes, it's ready. Let's program. Verification. Okay. Right. Third time is the charm. Check. And boot up. Yeah, I've got the same opinion with Windows. Actually, exactly. I mean, I have Windows. I do all most of my video editing in Windows and games, but I always find trying to actually do any work in Windows, most of the time I end up dropping into a Linux WSL instance, doing whatever I want in there. So, but I know Linux, I use Linux all the time, therefore when I try and use anything that's not Linux, it just seems counterintuitive to me, and I'm fighting it all the time. That's how it should look. That looks much better. So as soon as I do anything in Windows, it just, I don't know, it's not that I can't work out how to do it, it's that it just doesn't do it how I expect it to, so every time I have to go and rework out how to do it and dredge those bits up out of the depths of my brain. Whereas in Linux, just everything is there that I need and it all works the way that I expect it to. And it suits the way that I work and the tools that I use. But if you're used to using Windows and the tools that are available within Windows, then Linux is such a different way of working that it won't gel right with how you're used to. So if you're a Windows user, then switching to Linux at a low level is never going to be a smooth transition. I mean, it's getting better and better as time goes on, as the desktop environment becomes more like Windows, and as Windows gradually integrates more and more Linux-esque things in it. But there's never going to be a straight one-for-one swap. Yeah, you use what you're used to because it's gives you the most productivity. I'm not anti-Windows. I'm anti-Microsoft. I'm not anti-Windows. As I just, you use the operating system that you enjoy using and gives you the best productivity. I'm not an advocate of saying you must stop using Windows and use Linux for everything. Reality isn't like that. Right, this is a good sign. I just saw the disk. But now I need to get an operating system onto it. For that, I shall need high-tech newfangled things called floppies. Yeah, gaming on Linux is, again, it's hit and miss. Thanks to Photon, is it they call it? I think the clone of wine that Steam have. It does make it easier for gaming, but it's still not perfect. There are games that just will not work, games that work sometimes and work a bit. Unity actually is one of the best things for Linux gaming to have happened for Linux gaming for a long time. If only games authors would embrace it. Because Unity has native Linux support, so anything written in Unity can theoretically just run straight or be compiled and run straight on Linux without a translation layer. But it relies on the publishers of the game to actually package that up for Linux. So although the ability is there, they just don't bother because they don't think the market exists, and yet it does. So you end up using a Unity game that's compiled and set up for Windows in a translation layer on Linux. And it could just run native on Linux. On here. Going on here is turn it off, not on. Ubuntu, I fell out with Ubuntu because of the way the packaging has gone. The whole Snap thing, I really, really, really hate Snap. And having basic function forced into Snap, like Firefox forced into Snap, the only way you can install it is in Snap, unless you break out of Snap and basically effectively just compile it yourself from source code. It's straitjacketing you into using their specific packaging system. It just rubs me up the wrong way, so I refuse to use Ubuntu anymore because of that. But KDE and wake up camera. KDE is not Kubuntu. It's just Ubuntu with KDE. But then you use Arch with KDE. You could use Debian with KDE. They'd all give exactly the same end desktop experience because it is the same desktop, but without being forced into Canonical's somewhat draconian idea of you will use this packaging system full stop and everything you do they just annoy me. Well, that's the same across the board really. We're at a stage now where there is some adoption of Wayland and some non-adoption of Wayland. I personally don't use Wayland, mainly because I'm NVIDIA, and I know NVIDIA said yes, we're embracing Wayland and EGL and all this stuff, and it'll work, and it's all going to be perfectly fine. I have never had anything Wayland working with, so I do not use Wayland at all in any shape. On my laptop, I have obviously the built-in Intel graphics, and I do use Wayland, and it's better than X for higher speed, more rich graphical things like animations and things, but it's not be all and end all of existence. I mean, I don't need Wayland, but and you've got the X Wayland translation layer that lets you run X applications on Wayland, so it becomes pretty much transparent, but it does itself cause some issues with some older applications. I'm neither for it nor against it. It's what you like. It's what you are most productive in. But for NVIDIA, I use X. For Intel, I use Wayland. you can choose. You don't have to use one or the other, but even on Ubuntu, their default desktop wants to use Wayland, but you don't. Right, where are we on here? F3 to exit. I need to fdisk, which is on, I think, drive B. The best thing that Microsoft has done for Linux is WSL, without a doubt. Being able to run effectively a full-blown Linux within Windows has really sort of boosted the usability of Windows by giving it Linux, but also given a gateway to Linux for non-Linux users. It gives you a safe area where you can tinker and try things out without having to reboot into another OS or have another computer or set up a whole VM or anything like that. It gives you a playground where you can learn how to use Linux and eventually move away from Windows. Okay, what have we got here? I should have a partition that is on DOS, the wrong size. Let's delete it. And create a new primary active. And now they've got the whole sort of X integration WSL into Windows. There's no need to even run Windows applications. Or you can run your favourite Linux applications fully graphical, which is brilliant. Before you go, what's the next thing you're showing us? Go on, tell us, spill the beans. What's your next computer? You have memories of those old compact systems, doing various repairs and upgrades on those. It was a real blast from the past, seeing that. Let me drop out. Do fdisk/mbr to make sure that I've got the proper master boot record on the drive. Run setup. Of course I subscribed. Who'd you take me for? I watch all your videos now. That Sony Vaio was lovely though. Very nicely built machine. Very sleek. What am I doing? I don't want to do this. I don't want to install the whole operating system. All I want is format it. Can't really remember when the changeover day for me was for Linux. It was more of a gradual thing. I mean, was running certainly XP was my last. I'm not sure if XP was my last major Windows operating, or whether I ran 7 for a while. I think it was during the Windows 7 era. I was moving more and more to Linux, dual booting, and eventually spending more and more time in Linux all the time. And just Windows now is on one computer for specific jobs. And if DaVinci Resolve would pull their finger out and give us MP4 decoding on Linux, then I wouldn't even need to bother with Windows for video editing. The Sony Vaio had onboard. Did that have onboard graphics? If it has onboard graphics, then that will be using the AGP slot. So you would have to remove the onboard graphics first, or you can fit anything AGP. It'll actually be physically wired into the AGP. Okay, this has formatted. But that didn't boot. Okay. Boot again. Now there's a couple of little symbols should appear next to the disk when it boots up. An up arrow, which means the USB drive is bigger than the BIOS is configured for, which is good, but it's still not booting. Why is it not booting? Detecting it, not booting off. It's there, it's found it, it's triggered it. Knows it's drive C. It's formatted, it's got the operating system files on there. .443 megabytes, that's 16, it's active. Wonder if it's over from the old partition. Might be. I'm going to take this out, slap it into my Linux computer, and good old nice. So DED IF equals dev 0 OF equals dev SDE. Blank out. Oh, Meg. Right. There is now definitely no partition information on here. No boot records, nothing. Getting about as close as we were with Banyan Vines. Fortunately, that is not a problem here. I will do a follow-up on Banyan at some point. Okay. F-disk. Wrong drive. Blank. The up arrow is good. When you get a down arrow, that it's bad. And in that situation, the BIOS is configured to be bigger than the drive, and it can't fit it all in. The up arrow is a good sign. That's what I'm expecting to see. So I have one partition, 443, unknown system at the moment. Is if I'd put this flash drive in with the existing BIOS, it would have had a down arrow because it couldn't fit the file system onto the flash drive. And if In fact, it might have been a down arrow, an exclamation mark, and flashing, just to really rub it in. Unfortunately not. It's quite a minimal BIOS. The whole thing's only about 2K in size. Okay, that's formatted, called the OS. Pop the floppies. Finger salute. What is going on with this? Just for kits and shiggles, I'm going to put the original SD flash drive in, which is configured for the wrong size. Might work. Might begin to work. That's giving me non-system disk, so that is attempting to boot. Right, interesting. Very interesting. And maybe there's something wrong with this flash drive. This does not support this specific drive in some way. It's possible that it just does not support this drive. I must be getting popular. That was spam. It'd be disappointing if it just does not want to support this USB stick, because I got this stick specifically for doing this with. But I might instead use my 64 gig one because it doesn't feel quite so wasteful. But that currently is full of floppy disk images for GoTech. Copy all up first. Passing. and going slow. Oh, there we go. Still seems a bit slow for a network. Got most of my archive of Amiga games. A while to copy. So I'm going to copy it to my local SD instead. It's quicker. Large Amiga games. Which is all available on archive.org. It's a big archive on there full of pretty much every Amiga game ever made. So far in copying USB stick. And this archive also contained originally all the workbench discs. They were asked by Claranto to remove those. They obliged, but grudgingly. Yep, mine's in the cupboard over there. I am legitimate. I own the ROMs. I own the workbench disc. Hooky copies, of course, but then who doesn't? Of course, the Kickstart ROMs on the Amiga Forever disc are encrypted with the most laughable encryption ever. Decrypt them without even needing any special decryption software. I need to do something with my 500. The guts of my 500. Meaning to get it back up and running again and working. Just don't seem to have the time, the space, or the energy. I have covered it a couple of times on my YouTube channel with a couple of videos if you want to go and watch them, but really that interesting. I bought my first Amiga 500 using the proceeds of my Saturday job, which was delivering parcels for Demon's catalogue. And then I bought, while I was at uni, an Amiga 1200 motherboard. And keyboard from somewhere, I can't remember where. And built that into a bedside cabinet, my Amiga 1200. And to that I added a 68030 expansion board, 48 megabytes of RAM, and I had an 80 meg hard drive on the ordinary IDE. But I think at some point I had the 030 board. I think also had SCSI as well, so I think I added another larger SCSI drive to it at one point. But on that, I then ran Linux M68K, full X Windows everything. That was my first Linux computer at home. But since then I've that years and years and years and years ago, and then a number of years ago, a friend gave me the motherboard and keyboard of an old Amiga 500, which was sat in the cupboard at the moment. So I drag it out every so often and tinker with it, but I need to build it into something. I built it into a PC case at one point, but now that PC case is my NAS, so I need to put it in something really to keep it safe. I've got these plans for expansion cards that I want to build for it, memory expansion and all sorts of that, but just getting round to it is just yeah. Yeah, the big box ones are interesting beasts, and the Amiga 1000 was the first one which had its kickstart on floppy, if I remember, which was odd. 2000 was basically the Amiga 500 in a big box with a bit of extra expansion on. I did actually have briefly, before I completely destroyed it, in my inability to solder, and when I was younger, somebody actually gave me an Amiga 4000 at one point. And I was gutted when all I wanted to do was add a socket onto the motherboard to fit the FPU, and I completely destroyed the motherboard. But I didn't. I was doing soldering then. I was a little more than a teenager at the time, so yeah, I wish I still had that. It's a lovely computer. But these things come and go. I had the soldering skills then that I have these days. I probably wouldn't even attempt it, to be honest. So. Yeah, I was given by a company that was them out once a whole load of green screen terminals, serial terminals. I had 8 of them, I think. I used them on a couple of computers around the house. Mostly ended up in the attic, and in the end, they all went down the tip, and now I want them back. These things that I've had in the past that now are desirable, and I want them again. Infuriating that I've had them, and yeah. We're on to N at the moment. Oh, we're getting there gradually. Not sure really why I'm copying these ones off, because I've already got another copy of them on my NAS already anyway. If there's any left by then. Things get rarer and rarer as time goes on. Only thanks to the likes of Adrian Black keeping the old ones working. Auto carrot. I played most of these games. R-Type game. Dangerous. Robocop. I have Robocop on the Spectrum. Terrible game. I was addicted. X-Copy. I've got a copy of X-Copy somewhere here. Shadow of the Bee. Problem with this archive of games is a lot of them are infected with viruses. Oh, a video toast. Nice. I always lusted after all these sort of Genlock and video toaster type things for the Amiga. No use for them whatsoever, just it always seemed so cool to me. Could mix real video and computer graphics together. I'll always remember, oh, what was it? It was an art show or something, wasn't it, on telly, that used Amiga for all its graphics. Um, I used to have a like a video toaster thing for the Spectrum, believe it. Oh no, Babylon 5 designed all the graphics and models in Lightwave on the Amiga, but the actual rendering, I think they used SGIs for back-end rendering machines. I think they used SGIs for, but the actual all the design work and the actual modelling they did on the Amigas, yes, using Lightwave. No, I had a video toastery kind of thing, a video capture device for the Spectrum that captured 1-bit images from a video feed, but it did it so slowly you had to pause the video for it to capture a single frame, and then it was 1-bit black and white. It was interesting, but completely and utterly useless. Didn't do any dithering or anything like that. It's amazing the places these sort of old Amigas and Ataris crop up. And I remember reading something not very long ago, actually, that a motel or a hotel or something in America who was still using an Atari ST as their main front desk bookings computer. Still doing the job perfectly well. No need for a PC or anything like that. Still using an old Atari ST or something, STFM. But yeah, it still works. Why replace it? Great for productivity as well, because you can't browse the web and go on YouTube or TikTok or anything like that to get distracted by pictures of videos of kittens. Mm-hmm. Yes, it was very much Amiga for graphics and Atari for music. Even though they were both perfectly capable of each other, the people who were into the art and the graphics preferred the Amiga. People who were into the music preferred Atari ST. Mainly because the Atari ST had the built-in MIDI, which was useful. The Amiga had its hold and modify mode, a mind-bending graphics mode, but groundbreaking for its day. Yeah, my housemate that I was living with at university had the Atari Falcon. It was quite a nice machine, but still, it was an Atari, and it was nice. It had a few fun games on it, but he had the Falcon was an 030, and it was probably about on a par with 1200 maybe, which was an 020. So having all the extra fancy chips in the Amiga really sort of took it to the next level above what the likes of the Falcon thing could do. But yeah, the MIDI on the ST was what it was all about, really, for people. Right, that's finished finally. Yeah, the Paula chip really does make it sing on the Amiga. Having those 4 channels of 8-bit DMA driven samples really is above and beyond. Okay, I can now unmount this. I'm going to try this one on. Actually, first, don't I? Oh, right, the first chunk of this. this will also have, if I do use this one, it'll also have the advantage that it's a wee little card. So it doesn't stick out the back anywhere near as much, so it's not going to get knocked. Right, let's see. I can with this. Let's see. It's the formatting for the USB stick. Yeah, I like this one for the GoTech because it doesn't stick out the front, so leave it sat in there and you're not going to knock it as you go past it. And I can use the half big one for GoTech quite happily. Well, I have been using it for that recently. Okay, let's F this. No partitions. Well, I took some hard drugs before I started the stream, and they're kicking in. I'm currently up to my eyeballs on Beecham's. They are working. I didn't want to take them too early and be all chipper at the beginning of the stream and then end up run down. I'd rather be run down at the beginning of the stream and then pick it up as I go along. Okay, format C slash format. Same size of disk, regardless of the size of the USB stick, because it's all hard coded in the BIOS. Always going to be 442.93. It always seems so wasteful having all this space that you can use. And I know that DOS supposedly deal with up to 2 gig partitions and an 8 gig drive, but relies on the BIOS doing LBA and all that sort of rubbish to get past the 504 limit. Right, non-system. Hey. Certainly trying to boot off it. I might just need to do the fdisk/mbr now. disk on there for you to check, hasn't it? Okay. This something very odd going on here. I'm tempted, quarter of an hour, to one of the reasons why I wanted to find another chip to use. Put the original 504 meg BIOS back on. Try that. Can't be. 1024.1663. According to the comments, it's possible that max HPC up to 255 and get 8 gig. I'm not going to do that. If there's anything else that I can tweak, might help work. I'm not thinking there is, or nothing I can easily understand. So I shall try. Yes, I shall. Yeah, I'll start this off on the erasing of the EEPROM. It'll be the last thing I try though. 9:30 now. Set a 15-minute timer. Right. Need my from 6 again. Thank you for dropping by, CobHC. It's been great chatting to you. I'll see you on Discord, no doubt, or on Shelby's stream tomorrow. Determined to get something working here though before I call this a night. If you really want to. Hello, Carrot House's fans. Okay, that's given me Porters of your bad habits, yes. As I like to say, I have a PCB habit. Addicted to PCBs. Green ones. I wish I could find this other EEPROM. It must be on my desk here somewhere. I know I've seen it recently. Found the remains of my impromptu flash eraser. I actually had an email from them a couple of weeks back saying they would like to sponsor me. I haven't replied to them yet. I haven't had any PCBs to order, but maybe I'll eventually reply to them next time I come to order some PCBs. Where else could it be? I have no idea. Everywhere I look, there are chips and PCBs. None of them are the one that I want. That it isn't memory box. Four. That's a microcontroller. It's a 6010. It would be nice to use the 64s in this because stupid camera. It would be nice to use the 64s in this because the size of the BIOS is tiny. But unfortunately, the board goes into expects a larger one. So if you put a 64 in, I mean, it works. The trouble is, it works twice. Finds the ROM image twice in memory at 2 different addresses, runs it twice, and tries to access the CH375 chip twice, which it ain't good. Let's put it that way. Yeah. There's a way I can modify the board, take the smaller one, because I've got plenty of the 64s. I might be able to modify. I'd need to modify the address decoding. That it only activated the chip for 1/2 of its address range. Not just a case of tying a pin low or high. Actually, select pin. Too much like hard work. I'll just sit and wait for my EEPROM to arrive. I wonder if I could modify or to take the 512s better. That's I want to. That could just be a case of holding down. Oh dear, the sneezing has started. Okay, here the pin out. The difference between the 256 and the 512 apart from the programming voltage, which is irrelevant for reading it, different. A50 EPP pin 1. High, so that should have worked. unless the pin out of this is subtly different. See. Looks same to me. Decent. Okay, we've got them both side by side. Apart from the A7, go 7, low, 10, output in low, 7, 9, 8, 13, power. The pin out is exactly the same apart from A15. A15 is held high, so it has to up. Oh, there's my alarm. Shut up. Oh yeah, the ROM image would have to be in. Although I wrote it to the whole thing. It would work. Confused now. Okay, back to here. Load my bin. That's written. Back into the PC it goes. I'm putting in the original 128 gig drive. doesn't work, there's something up with the BIOS. That one works. Okay. Interesting. I pop that out, put the 64 in, and boot off Fly. The partition which is not using the hole now. I wonder if there's a problem with the BIOS, with this open source BIOS, where it doesn't like anything except 1024 cylinders. Maybe just reducing the number of heads, but keeping the cylinders at 1024 might make it work with a smaller disk. To explore. Not something I can explore tonight. I've got 10 minutes left and it takes a quarter of an hour to erase the EEPROM. Okay. Will this work? That works. Right. But it doesn't work with 940. It does work with 1024 cylinders. I am thinking there might be a bug, BIOS, or limitation in the BIOS, stops it from ever working with anything except 1024. Now I need to put my file system onto, which I've already copied off the memory key. I'd copy it onto here. Right, that might have just destroyed the ability to boot. Putting the permissions on the IOSys and MS-DOSys files. But we shall see. No, that's worked. Looks good to me. Eventually. Let's see what this does, speed-wise. Can't remember what it was originally. I know it was faster than an XT. Yep. That looks familiar. Faster than an XT's hard drive with 0 seek time. Okay, I think that's as much as I can do today. So that's the CH375B base ISA USA ISA USB ISB USA IS that thing what looked like a duck's bill. Yeah, those things interface. Running on the PC. Can't seem to get it to go any smaller than the 504. But that's only when doing the cylinders. So I think at some point I will come back to this again. Play with the heads. Or maybe the number of sectors per track and see if I can get it to reduce the size and still be able to boot. Maybe I'll consult with the author and see if he's got any thoughts on the matter. I think that's all I'm going to do for today. I'm going to go and rest my weary chest, get something to drink. On the outro. Right, well, kind of success in a non-successful sort of way. I survived a lot longer than I was expecting on my horrible cold. But, well, I mean, I've reduced the size of the disk that is in use on this now to a 64 meg instead of a 128, so 64 gig instead of a 128 gig. But not by updating the BIOS, by just changing it to a smaller drive. I've got a feeling that the number of cylinders will be limited to 1020 only BIOS, which is a pain, but I mean, maybe fixable in the future by the author. So I will revisit this and adjust the heads at some point and see if that, because it obviously is working, just refusing to boot, which as far as I can make out is purely going to be down to the BIOS. Some bug in the BIOS that just won't let it on low on it. I think that's all I can do for tonight now, and well, yeah, if you enjoyed this, swing by next time on Monday at 7 PM British Summer Time, which I believe is apparently 2 PM in Eastern Time. So 3 PM, yeah, 3 PM, no, 1 PM Central, midday Western, is it, I suppose? Or Mountain, or I don't know what these American time zones. They're all Greek to me. Which incidentally would be 8 PM in Greece, wouldn't you think? Anyway, 7 PM British time, whatever time zone we're in by then, next Monday, where I think I may look at tinkering a bit with my postcard now arrived. So that'll be my toy to play with on. So yeah, if you've enjoyed me if you've enjoyed this, join me then for that. Or you'll find my videos on YouTube, or join me on Discord, or if you really love me, you might like to sign up on Patreon and you'll get your name listed in this scrolly thing down here below. But until then, thank you so much for joining me, and I will see you next time.